Well, hello, everyone. This is Sharon, your retirement coach diva from Royalty Business Group. And tonight we have a special guest with us who is no stranger to us because she was on here several years ago. And so I'd love to have people to come back. And she agreed to come back. And this is a great time because what she provides is so needed by everyone out here. And so I want to introduce Miss Sabrina Hall with Empower Your Resume. She is a professional resume writer. She's actually a coach, and she helps everyone to better their resume. She helped me when I was pursuing, moving up in my career, and she was able to take my resume and improve it. And so many others that she's helped. And she's here today to give some tips for those federal employees that are looking to pivot into the private sector space, as well as other tips on what she does and how she does it. So good evening, Sabrina. How are you today?
Good evening. I'm well. How are you? Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming today. I'm so excited about being able to provide this information. Again, there are so many people who are in need of this information. And whether or not you are been in the federal space or not, sometimes you just need a refresher on your resume and what the information that you need to put out there to be able to pivot from where you were to a new career, to move into your passion from where you are. And I can tell you, my resume, I just updated it with some information, but my resume is so long, and I know that's not the type of resume that I really need to have in order to move into another space. So you're here to give myself as well as many others the great information about being able to, I'm gonna say, condense our resume and still have the information there that shows that we have this knowledge, the skills, and abilities to do everything that we want to do. So, without further ado, I'm going to ask you if you could start by sharing who you are and how you came into the space.
Sure. So again, my name is Sabrina Hall, and how I came into the space was I was a job seeker trying to update my own resume. And what happened, there were some growing pains I had to go through. But in that process, I was at a dead end job. I was working in the private sector. So at the same time, what I did, I ended up taking a faith walk and I quit. And I still was looking for a job, not encouraging people to quit. But in that process, I learned I had to shift my mindset. That is so important. And just stay looking for a job, shift my mindset, as well as keep applying. So I learned, for example, when I did a quit in July, people on vacation. So so that application is going to sit. But in the meantime, I've reached out to my network as well as temp agencies, and that's where I landed a job. And I didn't get my, full-time job until like a month later. So that's kind of how I got into the sector. I would do my friend's resume actually for free, and then I decided to turn it into a business. But I really enjoy the process of doing people resumes. And part of it, I look at it as a partnership. I don't encourage people just to give me their resume and I just, and I just do whatever, for example. But really look at their resume and I start asking deep questions. The goal is to showcase some leadership skills that we can create a product with.
Awesome. So you gave a tip just right there that I never thought about, is that the time of year of when you submit your resume, just making sure that it's that time where there's going to be somebody there to make sure that they get it. So in summertime, maybe even around holidays, we might want to hold back if we can, because the hiring manager may not be in the office to look over that
Yeah,
resume.
and I just still encourage people to still apply and still have faith that someone is going to return, get back to you. Excuse me. So yes.
Okay, awesome, awesome. So tell us, what's the first tip that you can give about how we can change our federal resume into to make it condense it so it can be like more tailored to a private sector resume?
Sure. So the first things first, um, companies are looking at least 10 years of experience. You can still show other positions, but you have to get creative in showing that. So think of the 10-year span. That's number one. Number two, you're going to have to target your job search based on the keywords. So, for example, I wouldn't tell a director to look for another director job because there are certain sectors that they give you lofty titles, but the pay doesn't come with it. So, for example, the nonprofit sector is big on that. There are certain, in my humble opinion, certain nonprofits that pay pretty well, like the science nonprofits, but
Mm-hmm.
other, nonprofits, I feel as if you're going to need a side job. So that's one. Target your resume based on the job. Also, learn more about the company. You're gonna have to do some more research
Mm-hmm.
about it, and keep in mind there's no one resume, one size fits all.
Mm.
So
So
in
that's
order
yeah.
for you to get the job that you want, you're gonna have to pull that job description and really look at those keywords. So, for example, if the keyword says collaboration, use
Mm-hmm.
collaboration, or process improvements, use that as well.
Mm. That's a great point. Now, what if you've been in a certain industry for a long time? You're used to the words that are in that industry. How do you pivot? How do you make sure that you're understanding that it could be the same, or that you might have those skills if you're not used to the words or the verbiage that is being used in another company?
Sure. So I will say again, it's important to research. Copilot and Chat GPT, like make it your friend,
Mm.
and you can create prompts in Chat GPT asking them like, "Hey, what are the keywords in this particular industry?" That will help you at least pivot for the most part.
Mm.
I'm trying to
Okay.
think of an example while I'm talking to you.
Right, right. So let me think of one. So we have people who might do contracts, right? In federal space, they're used to doing certain type of contracts a certain type of way. How could they maybe, use that information in order, or their skills to highlight it, or say, hey, I've done this kind of contract or whatever. That just came to mind about contracts.
Contracts. That's a great question. So I think you got to research the terminology
Mm-hmm.
in regarding contracts. So, for example, we have the federal contracts. So I'm thinking even further like nonprofit space because nonprofit tend to get foundation dollars and government dollars. So
Mm-hmm.
just utilizing uh, that space, utilizing those words to try to pivot because you have a program, in both spaces, they run programs. Just one
Mm-hmm.
caters to the nonprofit sector, the other caters to the government sector. Both of them have to be accountable to an entity. So, same lines in terms of contracting with different spaces.
Okay. All right. And so that means that you would have to make sure that you do your due diligence with each company, right?
Absolutely. You got to research. And
Now that's the thing because sometimes people are lazy. I'm just gonna be honest, and they don't want to take the time out to research or even completely tailor their resume in order for it to fit that other position. So when people are just like, I'll just say, for example, when the resume is on LinkedIn or Indeed, what should they have there in order to capture a hiring manager's attention?
I still go back to you have to tailor your resume to fit the job description. You can
Mm,
leave it as it is. However, it's a 50-50 chance that they may look at it or not.
mhm,
So if a recruiter has 7 to 10 seconds to look at your resume, I strongly encourage my clients, don't make them work hard. I think it's very pertinent to have a summary of qualifications, right? Who
mhm,
are you, right? In a nutshell. And then you have your core competencies. These are interchangeable based on the job. And then you talk about your duties and your accomplishments. And then you can take it a step further. So sometimes we can showcase our accomplishments or our community service and so forth. But you have to, I just strongly encourage people to tailor their resume. Also, again, I think it's very important to network, right? You never know. And I always feel, sometimes it's kind of hard to reach out to family or family don't follow through. I highly advise to utilize LinkedIn. I find that strangers actually respond to you faster than, sometimes your friends, you know,
mhm.
and you can just build a relationship there, maybe have a conversation. If they're local, take them out for coffee and just get a chance to know their company and, what that person does and how you can get in and so forth.
Okay. So when I'm looking for a job, right?
Mhm.
And I'll have my resume on LinkedIn or Indeed. You're saying that a hiring manager or recruiter is only going to review it like in 7 to 10 seconds?
So it's probably very pertinent that you can have it 2 pages.
Okay.
I would say 2 to 3 pages, but now I'm starting to hear 2 pages.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Mm-hmm. Right.
and so I think it's important to put your current position. Don't go back to when you first start working in the workforce.
Right. Okay.
Um, Also, too, I find that you have people who are doing community service. They serving on boards. They're doing things out in the community. Put that on your resume. You can showcase those skills. It can be something simple as facilitating a book discussion at work. You're
Mm.
organizing. You're leading book initiatives, book discussion initiatives, etc. You're leading, so forth. So I just think it's important. Like I love community service. Um, I love giving back personally, but I love community service because those sometimes you can get your skills there that you don't necessarily get in your job.
Okay. All right.
Mhm.
And so, what if you have skills that you are, or you're in a position, and then, but you want to go into a different field of work? How do you make sure that it'll be able to catch that recruiter or hiring manager's eye when they're looking over your resume?
So I would just highly advise that people use their transferable skills to get into the job. And that could be something simple as, we have program management.
Mm.
If you're going into maybe the healthcare space, it could be program development or
Mm.
program management. Program management is a start date, an end date, but using certain words interchangeable depending on the job description. And I also want to talk a little bit about the job description. So
Mm.
I highly encourage people to really read the job description. If the job description says preferred, apply, apply, apply. If the job description says required, we require you to have a PhD, then maybe you need to look for another job.
Okay.
But I think sometimes people tend to overlook the particular position because they may say, prefer to have a PhD, prefer the PMP or these credentials, and
Mm-hmm.
you still have a shot. I feel that sometimes we tend to disqualify ourselves. And I highly encourage my clients, like, let them tell you no.
Okay.
Apply until they tell you no.
Okay. Well, I just want to make sure that our listeners, those of online, please like, share, and subscribe to this channel, but also reach out to someone that you know and let them know that we are online right now. We're going to be here at least for another 45 minutes or so talking. Sabrina's going to share her expertise about resume writing and being a resume coach. We haven't gotten to that part yet. She hasn't explained about how she coaches her clients. So please make sure you do that. In addition, drop into the chat your questions or comments that you might have in order for us to engage with you and to hear back from you. We're here not just to talk to each other, but we're here to talk to you and want to know from you what it is that you might have questions on as it pertains to updating your resume, making that pivot maybe from the federal space into the private sector space, or just making a pivot into another career or whatever it is. Maybe you want to be an entrepreneur. You want to know how to craft your resume so you can be able to provide that information to those that you're looking for to get business with or contracts with, or having that capability statement. So make sure that you drop into the chat, engage with us, like and share this information so others can know, and reach out to us so we can be able to assist you. So, Sabrina,
Yes.
online, you mentioned a little bit earlier about this using AI. How can that benefit us? Because, you hear that there so many things. I've heard that if you, so many people might be using it, that the same information might start showing up on resumes, or you hear that that now the different companies that scan and review the resumes, they have detectors to say, that you used Chat GPT or some other AI platform. So how is it that we can best use AI to enhance our resume?
So I think it's best to use Chat GPT or AI as research for that industry. It gives you a wealth of information. I
Mm.
will be honest, Chat GPT, some of the information is a little outdated. So you don't want to get yourself in trouble. But you can ask, hey, what are the key words for this industry?
Mm.
Um, and that's one question. Or if you need help seeing if your resume fits this particular job posting, that's another way that you can use Chat GPT. Like, well, what skills are needed to do this job? And then
Mm.
you have to again target your job description to fit your resume, or vice versa. I'm sorry, target your resume to fit the job description. But
Right.
once you get those key targets, then you can move forward. So I would just kind of advise, if you have the time to dedicate possibly 6 hours to work on your resume. And maybe you could space it out. If you can just get it done in one setting, that would be good. But just start to look at your accomplishments. Your first job will hold the most duties / accomplishments.
Mm-hmm.
But your past, you start to decrease those bullets and just focus on high level. So when I work with my clients, I find that people tend to forget those special projects that, maybe their boss has given them. So put those special projects, because the goal is, have you improved the process? Did you save money? Are you reducing something? Those are the accomplishments. Those are your bragging rights. So that's one thing you can definitely showcase on your resume.
Great. And we have a comment that says that Lady Line, that says that I agree that the resume should be customized for the position the person is applying for. I usually use the same keywords that are mentioned in the job announcement as well. So evidently that's key. That's important to use those words that stand out for the position, using those words in the resume. So I also wanted to know, how can someone like myself, like I said, I updated my resume not that long ago. My resume was like 10 pages. How can I and I don't even think like I went back all the way. I think I did 10 years, but I come from the mindset that I need to include like everything that I did. So how can I make sure that is that condensed, like you said, 2 pages, maybe 3 at the most, to be able to, get that position that I'm looking for?
Sure. So again, do not go back to when you first had a position.
Mm-hmm.
But I definitely will go back 10 years, and then after 10 years, you can say other duties held included X, Y, and Z. That's how you can kind of present that. So in terms of my mindset, we are all progressing in our careers. So I would highly suggest put those job titles that possibly support what you're trying to do. Again, leadership titles if possible.
Okay. All right. So we do have a question in the chat, and I'm not sure if you can see it, but it says, I have lots of leadership training provided internally. How do I incorporate those trainings that I do not have certificates identifiable by the private sector?
So you can just put those under your trainings or professional development in trainings. And some of them may not be certifications, but let's just make sure they're like leadership, if possible, leadership certifications. So for example, when I was a government contractor, we had, I think fraud, waste, and abuse. And that's pertinent to the government sector, but it's not pertinent to the private sector. So I wouldn't use that. Or sexual harassment, something that everyone takes, but that's not pertinent to your role. So I would just, think about how do I want to showcase myself, and put those accordingly. I would probably say keep your trainings as recent as possible, because you don't want to show that you're outdated, even your technical skills. So for example, IBM, or
I don't even know if people remember what IBM is. That's so long ago.
So right now we're using PC or Mac, right? So you don't want to say anything that may date you to, may tell your age. Also, I'm glad we're talking about this. When once after those 10 years, we take dates off. So if you graduated from college in 1994, take it off. With ageism is out here. We don't want anything to discriminate you, so we start taking dates off.
Okay, all right. And so we have another question. It says, is it better to focus on skills or the job duties?
Oh, that's a good question. I think skills are so pertinent. Yeah, because you can also, develop and build on those skills and take them to another job.
Okay. So you mentioned about ageism, and how, or there are other isms too, but what can we do in order to make sure that there's not any, discrimination? Like, so I'm sure you tell me, I'm not going to even go into, you tell me, how can we make sure that there's little to no discrimination when
Little to no discrimination.
yeah, I'll just put little. We'll just say little.
That's a great question. So So like I said, we stay away from dates. I would think if certain, I guess it just depends. It depends. And I say that if you have certain ethnic names, you might want to shorten your name. We can look at it as the resume is a document that can be changed, or it can be adaptable. For example, if I have a nickname in the workplace, if I go by Erica in the workplace, but when I fill out that application for a job, my name is Sabrina Erica, So that's what I kind of want to encourage people to, like I said, stay away from ageism. I don't want to go into a slippery slope instead of names, because names can kind of tell on us, but you can initial your first name. If your name is kind of ethnic, you can initial your first name, S. Hall, until, the person gets to know you. So for example, Sabrina Hall is a common name. No one knows, my ethnicity until they look me up on LinkedIn. Right. And even with LinkedIn, to be honest, I could probably hide my picture.
Right. And, sometimes even though you think a name is ethnic to one, or you think a name is for one ethnicity rather, and then the person, you see the person and it could be totally different. So you can't always go by that either. So we want to make sure we keep that in mind. But I do want you right now, while we in the midst of everything, I know everybody can see the bottom of the screen, but I want you to share your information as far as how someone can reach out to you if they are interested in getting services from you, or just talk to you and learn more.
Absolutely. So you can reach me by the information provided on the screen. You can email me at info@empoweryourresume.com. We can set up an appointment, and I always encourage people to send me their resumes, and then we can go from there. And even in learning, me getting to learn more about people, I always try to provide suggestions. Ultimately, it's your decision. Like, for example, these people who are transitioning from the government, I might say, hey, have you thought about government contracting? Although, that's kind of the next phase.
Right.
But I also encourage people to check out temp agencies. Some of these private sectors, go through the temp maybe I should say recruitment agencies. That's probably the proper word. When I was growing up, we called it temp agencies.
Yeah.
But the recruitment agencies, and if you are a senior director, they have headhunters, and they have recruitment agencies at the director level. So I just highly encourage people to seek other ways. Don't get discouraged. You can only look so much with Indeed, but just start really being creative in networking events.
Okay.
If people are a part of any professional association, network there, take people's information, keep in touch. What I love about LinkedIn, it's like an online business card. So I might change my job, but you're still able to keep in touch with me. So I always look at it as a positive versus a negative. Some of my older clients look at it as like a business Facebook. But again, the beautiful thing, connect with me on LinkedIn. My name is Sabrina Hall. You can connect with me on LinkedIn. If you see someone, for example, in my friends group that's interesting, I can make the introduction. So that's the beauty of LinkedIn, and like I said, networking.
Right. And that's what I tell people as well. Like once you meet somebody, you're connected to their network and they're connected to yours. So then your network can expand, or both your networks expand, because like you said, you can reach to that person, say, hey, I'm interested in talking to this person. They are a business owner and I want to, you know, be mentored, or I want to, see if I can start business with them, some type of relationship. So yeah, that's a great way. And I love what you said about LinkedIn. I never thought of it before, but as your electronic business card that you can update your information is right there, and you can see people who are connected with you. And these people, some people you don't know, but that's how you make those connections, right? You start to reach out to them, even when you make that initial connection. So I want to kind of go back a little bit to what you were saying. You mentioned about when you meet with your clients and what they have to do. So tell us about the coaching part of it, because you have done a wonderful job explaining what you do when you help people, giving those tips on creating the resume. But there's a whole nother part of what you do in order to make sure that the person, is able to pursue and get the job, right?
Yes. So the coaching piece is more of strategy, and we will meet like 4 weeks to discuss strategy, and I will give you tips. So for example, I'm going to just focus on one particular piece, networking, right? Let's work on your elevator pitch. Who are you? What do you do? What are your interests are? And then maybe depending on what's going on in the area, maybe you can go to a networking event. So it's more about strategy. And I just try to encourage people, and then looking at different avenues. So for example, if you have a clearance, go on clearancejobs.com. Again, I know that sector, it's next, but sometimes people forget about clearancejobs.com.
Okay.
So yeah, that's my main thing, is just mainly job search strategy. Sometimes you need someone to help you with interviewing and coming up with your questions and feeling confident about what you're applying to and who you are. And when I work with a client, even with the resume, so it's a partnership. I also need your concurrence, but I also want to use the language that I feel that you're comfortable with. So, I always use this example. If I'm doing someone's resume who graduated from high school, I'm going to use the word teamwork. If the person is higher than, a high school graduate, depending on the job description, I'm using collaboration. And I just think that's important. And feeling, it's important to speak to that language. We talk about the ATS system, and they pick up key words that you have to use.
Okay. Yeah, definitely. And so we do have some comments here. Uh, it was mentioned that sometimes people don't realize that, like you said, when I was coming up, it was called temp agencies, and now they're recruiting agencies. So they just trying to change the verbiage in order
recruitment staffing agencies.
Yes. So we had manpower and all those
manpower, Randstad, yes.
The other one. And then there's another comment that says LinkedIn has a lot of good jobs, but it's recommended not to use the quick apply feature. And I did submit the jobs through LinkedIn, and what I found out is that they were really direct sales. They weren't an actual job. And so one thing I said I was going to do is move out of LinkedIn and look at the website for the actual company, before applying, to see, what type of company it is. So I wouldn't be contacted by someone who's trying to build their networking business. I have nothing against direct sales. I have done them for most of my adult life. I just was not looking for a direct sales position. And so I was surprised when the person contacted me. But, everyone has to recruit some type of way. And that's what they were doing.
Absolutely.
But, say
something about LinkedIn. Just want to encourage people that recruiters are on LinkedIn, and I have actually gotten a job because a recruiter contacted me on LinkedIn. So making sure people have to make sure their LinkedIn is up to date. So I just wanted to drop that nugget.
That's great. That's a great nugget. I do want to kind of go to like another end of the resume part, because sometimes I know you have clients that haven't updated their resume in years, and they don't know how to really describe what they're doing. So how do you coach those clients who may just give you like, I sit at the front desk.
To be honest, and what I failed to mention, I have a resume checklist. So my goal is always to quantify results. So, that person who sits at the front desk, I'm going to ask them like, hey, what did you do daily, weekly, monthly, annually, yearly? Are you doing special projects? Did you serve as a backup to a supervisor? Those things. I'm kind of picking your brain, and then again coming up with a product that I think you will like. Because I do have people who have given me their resume. They may have said answer phones. Well, right now all of us answer phones. But do you serve as a liaison to the director? Are you the first point of contact that I have to deal with before I get to that director? Like, that's important. And I think people tend to leave out the small details for whatever reason. So that's where I kind of go. I kind of pick your brain. Like I said, I go back to, community involvement. I do, depending on what it is, I do stay away from church. Just so that people won't be pigeonholed. Like, oh, this person is up fake. Don't want anything to disqualify them. But yeah, that's kind of my role, to make sure that we cover all angles, and then we start quantifying. Oh, okay, you led a team. How many was in the group? What's lessons learned? Those kind of things.
Okay. So we have a question. So, and basically it's asking, what personal information should you include on the resume? So I'm gonna go back. I've been working you know, since I was like 15 years old. And not going to share how old I am. Well, I'm proud to share how old I am, but I'm not going to share how old I am right now. So I've been working for a long time. Like, so, um, and when before you filled out, we had more job applications, right? Back then, you fill out the job application, they ask you all your personal information. On the resume, we used to, have a lot of our personal information. But how much information should we put about ourselves on the resume? Or what information, rather?
Oh, what information? Of course, your name. You can put city and location. You don't even have to put your address anymore.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Your email, telephone number, and now we're adding LinkedIn profile to the resumes.
Mm-hmm.
People want to know who you are. Now I know some of my IT folks are very particular, with the security. So I get that. But people want to know who you are. So I would stay with that. I kind of stay away from hobbies, unless it's, again, community involvement that supports where you're trying to go.
Okay. All right.
Mm-hmm.
And so, how often should someone update their resume?
I think possibly every quarter.
Every
Or
quarter?
it would be, that's ideal. But let me just say this. Probably annually. When you do your evaluations, that's
Okay.
probably a great time to update your resume.
So, tell us more about what would be the purpose of updating it annually, even if you're not pursuing a new position.
Well, sometimes you have different responsibilities that you are doing. So, for example, I come across a lot of government clients that do details.
Mm.
And they may not be putting it on their resume. So that's a great time. Hey, you got this new position, this detail, put the detail on your resume.
Okay. All right. That's it. That is a good. That's true. That's true because
Yeah.
your
I mean,
your duties
it
are
should be
changing.
quarterly, but I mean, that's perfect
Yeah,
work.
that's a lot. Listen. Annual still a lot. Most people never do it till they really, pursuing a job. But that is true. You need to look at it, at least review it to make sure that what you're doing, what's there, you're still doing, or how you might have improved or moved up in those skills and learned more. Um, so we have a comment, a question in the chat that says, "How would you help a college graduate student with a resume?"
So, how would I help a college graduate
Yes.
student
Yes.
with a resume?
Mm-hmm.
Well, first things first, I need to know what their interests are and see, in conversations to kind of gauge where that person is. So, for example, I know, let me kind of segue a little bit. So I've done some mentoring with an organization that teaches students in other countries and prepare them for the workforce. So they have this checklist. Hey, are you on LinkedIn? We need you to be connected to 500 people. So you have some people who are very, I had a former mentee, she was very progressive. Everything was checked off, right? She had contacted people in her field. She had like over 500 people that she was connected with on LinkedIn. So it's just more about a checklist and seeing what's next steps for this person. Because you definitely should have a vision. I highly encourage people, if you decide to hire a resume writer, make sure you have a job in mind. My I guess my take on that, I don't want you to have this impression like, oh, got my resume done. People should be calling me back, and that may not be necessarily true. So if you have some jobs in mind, hey, I'm thinking about doing this, that, and the other, and you want me to help you craft your resume to it, cool. So I just think it's more rewarding that way.
Okay. Okay. That makes sense because then you have a goal. that you are
Absolutely.
trying to accomplish, and the resume writer can help tailor your resume towards meeting that goal.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, go ahead. I know you
No,
want
and
to
I
say
was just saying, in terms of me working with people, like I said, it's a partnership. I want to reiterate that, but I go as fast as the client goes. So if the client is responsive, concurring or approving different drafts, then you can get your resume back, maybe within 2 or 3 days, depending on the revisions. If life is happening with that client, I'm going as slow as they are. So, again, it's a partnership. That's how I enjoy it that way, and I want the person to get the best, you
Mm,
know, out of the experience. That's so important.
right, right, exactly, exactly. So, how would someone, I'm gonna say, vet their resume writer? Because you know, I know people say, "Oh yeah, I review resumes," and I've had people come and ask me about, reviewing or helping them with resumes because, I have background in HR, but that doesn't mean that I know how to make sure that your resume, is correct. I can give them a few tips, but how would you vet a resume writer?
So I would just highly encourage that you just, I mean, of course, like have a conversation with them, but what what are their processes to get you the best product?
Mm,
And are you willing to put in the work?
mm,
Again, my resume
right.
checklist, I try to capture everything, right? Because
Mhm,
sometimes a person give me their resume and stuff is missing. So my resume checklist will, capture it. For example, I had a particular client that was like a program manager, managed multiple programs.
mhm,
But on the resume, this person only talked about one program,
mhm,
and also, and to me, there's certain industries, things go together. Like if you manage a program, how much money are you managing? We got to discuss money.
right, right.
I always want to make sure, certain things go together. If you manage a program, of course, like I said, it's initiation to completion. What were the outcomes?
Mhm,
Did you have to submit a report? Did you close out the project? It's just those things that I think are crucial to certain industries that has to be said. Or if you're a facilitator, how are you facilitating information if you work at a university? Are there
okay.
one-to-one discussions? Are you doing group facilitation? So I try to do. I also, like I said, I try to turn every stone. That's
Mhm,
kind of like my thing. And sometimes people are in industry, they use nicknames. So unless the recruiter knows that particular, they work in that industry and they know the nickname, I kind of do my research to make sure we're using the proper names. Um,
okay.
yeah, and I find that that's like in my environmental services um, industry, like
Okay.
nicknames for equipment and so forth.
Okay. All right. So when I'm just going to go back to the vetting part. Should they ask for like not referrals, I'm sorry, references?
Yes, I'm sorry. So yes, so they should ask for references, testimonials. I definitely would look like again, do my research, ask people, see their work, see if you can see a comparison,
Mhm.
what the person's project or resume look like before and after to see like what's the improvements. Did they
Okay.
wow? Is the final product a wow product or what? Yes, I forgot about the testimonials, but the testimonials are really key.
Yes, yes. And so how would the person know that they are getting their money's worth? Like how much would an average resume writer charge?
Oh, it depends on who you're talking to, and
Mm,
depends on the industry. Like I spoke to someone who was in banking and she was a VP, and she told me she spent $1,500 for a resume.
What? She should have been the owner of the bank with spending that much money on a
Another gentleman
resume.
I
Like,
spoke to, yeah, another gentleman I spoke to, he was in program management. I think he's also does computers too. He told me he spent $400 for a resume. So it really depends. It depends. I'm not going to get into prices for me. So it is on my website. But if there are edits, that's one fee. But if I'm reconstructing a resume or creating a resume from scratch, that's another fee. Writing cover letters is a fee.
right.
I do LinkedIn profiles. However, if we're working together and you're doing your resume, my opinion, I think you can use your resume for LinkedIn. And I can just tell you, hey, you should cut and paste, or I can set that. That's not a fee to me. I know some people hire people specifically for LinkedIn. But I just say, hey, get your resume done. I can help you cut and paste, or get in the system or something like that. So that's pretty much it.
Now, do you recommend that people do cover letters?
Absolutely. I say do what the job asks you to do. So it would be great to do a cover letter for each one. The cover letter, you can discuss your accomplishments. And, that's what the cover letter is for. You can kind of explain gaps if you need to, but I think you have to always focus on the positive, right? That's the goal. You want to present yourself in the best life. Some people take sabbatical, and it's okay because people take sabbaticals, and I know I do have some people, they feel a little discouraged, and it's a way you could talk about that, once you get the interview. But, I highly encourage people, paint yourself in the best light, use your cover letter, brag about yourself. What did you do? Did you save money? Did you create a SOP that now is the standard for the company? Like really brag about your accomplishments.
Okay. Yeah. All right. And so can you just again tell everyone, I know they can see it at the bottom of the screen, but they may not have been able to capture it really quickly. Please give your contact information on how people can reach out to you and ask you more questions or use your services.
Sure. So you can contact me. You can follow me on Facebook and Instagram at Empower Your Resume. You can contact me. My business web address is www.empoweryourresume.com. And you can call me at 301-541-7511. So asking questions, I don't charge. But I do have an appointment calendar that we will have to set up an appointment to go over your resume and see, what's next steps for you.
Okay. Awesome. Awesome. So you're giving some great tips on how we can tailor our resume, making sure that we, like I said, my resume was like 10 pages, how we can, bring it down. I'm still trying to figure in my mind how all that will work, but I know working with you, you best bring it down to like 2 pages, maybe 3 at the most, like you said, going back 10 years, but not actually putting every duty down.
Yes.
Everything down is just making sure that the high level things that we did during those 10 years in whatever positions that we have, including those, like you said, in the federal government, people do details or temporary assignments somewhere else, even with taking a sabbatical, making sure that we have the correct personal information included, which would be our name, like you said, maybe the city and state in which we live, and email address to be contacted, as well as LinkedIn. So that means you got to make sure your LinkedIn profile looks good, that you keep that updated as well. when we're putting in information about our education, if you old, I'm just joking, but it's like you may not want to put, like you said, if you graduated from college in 1994 or somewhere, make sure it's relevant. Even with certification,
Relevant.
you
Yeah.
might want
Please
to
make
make
sure
sure
it's
that,
relevant.
yes, make sure it's relevant and that it is not showing that it was received. Even maybe I'm just going to throw it out there, like 2000. That was 25 years ago.
Yes.
So you still might have that certification, may have done some things to keep it up, but you don't necessarily have to put in the date in which you received it. And then, as you mentioned, volunteer, some things that you do as a volunteer to give back, including that information in the resume, because that might also be part of what you can do to get that position. I know it helped me to get my current position. The things that I was doing outside of my employment, then that helped towards showing that I had the skills in order to get my resume. So I do have a testimonial in the chat that says Sabrina ramped up my resume and I got a lot more job offers after that. And they're saying they're so
Oh,
grateful.
thank you so much. Thank you. Thank
Yeah,
you.
that's from Miss Ritchie. So yes.
Thank you, Miss
So yeah,
Richie.
we thank you so much for sharing that. Make sure that you reach out to Sabrina. She gave you her contact information. You see it on the screen. Ask her questions. If pen goes to paper, if she has to start typing, then there's going to be a fee. But she will let you know what that is as you work with her. But I'm gonna tell you, it's worth the cost of making sure that your resume is updated, because once you get it updated to that point, then you could just tweak it yourself, right? You don't have to keep
Absolutely.
coming back to her every time. And make, like you mentioned, also tailoring that resume towards the position, using the keywords out of that job in order to enhance your resume. Don't lie.
Yeah,
You want to
don't
make sure
lie.
you're
Don't
not
lie.
right. Don't lie, but make sure that whatever those skills are that's in the position description, that you can connect it to what you are actually doing. So when the hiring manager or recruiter is looking it over, they can say, "Oh yeah, they did this, and that translates into this, which is what we are doing." So you gave some great tips, Sabrina. Let me just turn it over to you. Anything final that I might have missed when I was recapping?
No, you covered everything, but I still highly encourage people put a summary of qualifications on
Yeah.
there. No
Mm-hmm.
more objective statements.
Okay, I meant to
Yes,
ask you about that summary of
yes,
qualifications.
yes.
Okay.
Summary of qualification. I am a higher education professional with a solid record of success in donor relations. Something. No objective state. No objective statement. We know you're looking for a job.
Mhm. So that's the objective, right? The objective is you're looking for a job. So a qualification statement talks about your qualities and what you have to offer. Would just real quick, I have a question. Would that differ from what goes into the cover letter?
Um, it depends. It
Mhm.
depends. You can actually add that as your cover letter.
Okay.
When
Okay.
you open it up, when you open up your cover letter, who are you? How did you find about the job? Yeah, so absolutely, you can use that.
Awesome, awesome. Well, I want to thank everyone that's came tonight live with us, and those of you that are going to look at the replay, I thank you too. You can type your comments and questions into the chat, and we can come back and look at it in the future. And make sure that you follow us. Follow
Yes.
Sabrina on her platforms. Make sure you follow me on my platforms. I'll be here monthly with new guests and talking about various topics that come from finance, retirement, bettering your health. I capture a gamut of things. So if you have something that you are interested in learning more about, please let me know so we can have a guest here. Look at our past episodes. Maybe there's one that catches your eye and it's like, hey, can you bring that person back? so we can get some more information. But I want to thank everybody for joining us tonight and have a great evening. Thanks, everyone.
Yeah. Thank you. Take care, guys.